afternoon, Patriots. This is the American Vision, brought to you on the TLBTV network and sponsored by the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Bill Muckler, and I'm coming to you from my home studio in Cocoa, Florida. And today I'm really excited to have a guest with me. Actually, he outranks me, Major Joe Jennings, and it's always wonderful to have a Marine on. But this guest is really of interest to all of us because he has written a book called The Ghost of Iwo Jima. And for those of you who are Marines, you know a lot about Iwo Jima. For those who don't, Iwo Jima is an island south of Japan that the armed forces invaded, I guess you might say, assaulted on February 19th of 1945. And the battle went on through March 25th of 1945. So it was a little more than a month. And that was the battle right before the Battle of Okinawa. And of course, the war was concluded on August 15th of 1945. So this little island of about 8 square miles was assaulted by the task force that was made up, and I hope I got this right, Joe, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Marine Divisions. And all in all is around 110,000 of our armed forces. I think the 3rd and 4th Marine Divisions, I'm going to just give you some rough numbers, were about 25,000 each, and the 5th Marine Division, I think, was about 19 to 20,000. And I'm just giving you round numbers. So that tells you how many. What's of real importance to this and what the book is about is we lost, and I'm giving you round numbers, about 7,000 Marines in this battle that took place for a little more than a month. And we also had 19,000, as I remember correctly, almost 20,000 Marines were wounded. So we had casualties of about 26,000 Marines. And of the Japanese on the island, I believe there was about 70,000, of which I think only 216, if I remember my numbers correctly, survived from that. And so of the 7,000 Marines that were killed, there's still the remains of some of those Marines on the island that were never found for one reason or another. And that's what Joe's going to tell us about. But Joe, I want to welcome you to the show. It's certainly an honor. And maybe we could start out by you just giving us a little bit of your background and how you ended up in the Marine Corps, so to say, and so forth.
Well, thanks, Bill, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, sure. I was born right after the war, 1946. I ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps in 1964 when I was 17 years old, just freshly graduated from high school. Spent 4 years as an enlisted Marine, and my MOS, my occupational specialty, was 0311 combat infantryman, in February of '66, I went to Vietnam and joined the Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines, 3rd Marine Division. Was with them for about 4 months, pretty tough time there. Then I got into something called the Combined Action Program, where we took a squad of Marines and went and moved into a village, a Vietnamese village, worked with the local Vietnamese popular forces to help defend the village, try to give the villagers a little bit more normal life, try to give them a little bit more peace. Did that for 18 months. I was in country for a total of 22 months. Came back, got out of the Marine Corps, went to school at the University of Virginia, graduated there in 1972, got a commission as a Marine officer. Got to go do a lot of fun things for the next 16 years. Had a lot of great experiences, and retired in 1988. went to work for a nonprofit company in the DC area for a while. Did some other things, and ended up doing my final retirement in 2004. So that's kind of my background.
So you enlisted in the Marine Corps when you're 17, and did you go to Paris Island or San Diego?
Paris Island.
Paris Island.
Yep.
And
Platoon 375.
In what?
Platoon 375.
You never forget. It's just like me. I did my boot camp in Quantico in the OCC program, and I was in the 22nd OCC program, and I still have contact with a lot of the guys that were there. I mean, there was quite an experience. It was one that I will cherish for the rest of my life. So then you talked about your Vietnam experience, but then when you graduated, as far as the Marine Corps is concerned, I presume that you left the University of Virginia and went to Quantico, Virginia for basic officer school?
That's right. Yeah, I did. Well, I was in the PLC program at Virginia. So upon graduation, I was commissioned, and then I went to the basic school at Quantico, and came out of that with once again an infantry MOS, a 302 basic infantry officer. Mm-hmm. Went straight to Okinawa. Did an unaccompanied tour there. I'd gotten married a couple of years previously while I was still in school. Mm-hmm. But I got kind of lucky because I got into 3rd Recon Battalion in Okinawa. And when I came back from there, I was in 2nd Force Reconnaissance Company. So I got to go do a lot of fun things for 4 years as a reconnaissance platoon commander.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I went through basic officer school in class of 358, and from there I was sent to Tyndall Air Force Base in Panama City, Florida, to become an air defense control officer, 6709, and from there I was actually sent overseas also, but accompanied. It was a 3-year tour because Hawaii at that time was still a territory and was considered overseas duty. So Hawaii and our Kaneohe Bay Marine Corps Air Station, and also I was at Okinawa at the Fatima Marine Corps Air Station. I also spent some time, traveling across the Pacific from one end to the other. And I presume you spent a lot of time aboard ships too. So then after Okinawa, where did you go?
Well, when I was in Okinawa as a second lieutenant, I was in 3rd Recon Battalion, and then came back to Camp Lejeune, was in 2nd Force Reconnaissance Company. Did that for 3 years. Went to all the different schools and everything, jump school, dive school, ranger school, and then finally, after 4 years of doing this sort of stuff and having a great time traveling around the world, my wife sat me down for one of those discussions that starts off, "Now listen, asshole," and she let me know that it was time to settle down and stay home for a while. So I ended up going to the Naval Postgraduate School. I got a graduate degree, and then then for the rest of my career, I kind of did tour in, tour out with research and development, and then I'd go back to the infantry for a while, and then back into a research and development billet, and finished up my career that way. Mm-hmm.
So what we want to do is I want to introduce the book that Joe has written, and it'll be one of several from what I understand, but it's called The Ghost of Iwo Jima. And when I saw this book, I was just fascinated by it. I had to get it, so I ordered it from Kindle right away, or from Amazon.com right away. And the book in softcover and ebook is also available at Amazon. And Joe will probably tell you some of those things later on. So anyway, I started reading this book, and immediately I had to contact Joe and find out, hey, I got to talk to to Joe and find out more about this book and why he wrote the book. So I want to share that with everyone. So Joe, and also I want to let you know that my family and I are really dog lovers and dog owners. I don't have one right now. My son does, and my kids do, and grandkids. But tell us a little bit about the book and your experiences. And also, we want to meet Gunny. I don't know if he's available to make an appearance or not, but we can see him on the cover of the book.
Yeah, I'll get him. I'll get him in a few minutes. He's actually outside enjoying the nice weather outside at the minute. But yeah, so you see the profile of the golden retriever on the book cover there. I'm a member of Great Basin Canine Search and Rescue, along with my dog named Gunny, and we've been doing that for about 10 years now. Been in over 70 searches across the Intermountain West. And it's been really interesting, and that was sort of the genesis of my thinking about this book. Had been on a number of searches, had learned a fair bit about the whole search and rescue, canine search and rescue business, and got to thinking, boy, wouldn't it be neat if we went to some place like Iwo Jima to look for remains of some of the Marines from that battle, that got me thinking, and I thought about that for a while, and finally one day I just decided, I got a story here. Let's sit down and see if I can write it. And it was a couple of years ago when I did that. It took me about a year and a half to get to the point where it was ready to go out and be published, and published it on Amazon last August.
So the book has been out for less than a year then, and for those of you who haven't published a book before, it's quite an experience, and I know you spent a lot of hard work writing and editing. Did you have a publishing company, or did you self-publish?
No, I self-published. The publishing business is really tough these days, and outfits like Amazon are taking a big chunk out of the publishing business, and at the same time, outfits like Amazon are making it much easier for folks like me to self-publish. So after going through a rather extensive round of author queries and talking to publishers and talking to agents and so forth, with no luck, I decided that I would self-publish and see what happened. And so far, it's been received pretty well.
That's fantastic. I went through the same situation myself. I actually first published as an ebook, and I got my help from one of the guys I went through OCC and basic school with, and actually served in the 1st Marine Brigade with for a few years. A guy, retired Lieutenant Colonel Dick Reynolds, who's from my hometown of St. Louis. So when we've stayed in touch, and he wrote, I guess, about 5 or 6 novels, and so he helped me, and that's really great. So if anybody has a story they want to tell, you can contact me or contact Joe. I'm sure we'd both be more than happy to help you. If we can give you some guidance or some tips, we can, because we want people to write books, and we really want people to read books.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
that would be helpful.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this story itself, because it's really a fascinating story about how in the book, and it's fictionalized, of course, you put together a team, but I presume that there are teams like this that are hunting for, searching for remains, and.
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's an outfit called History Flight that does exactly the sort of thing I talk about in the book. In the book, I have an organization called Team Liberty, which is fictional but is based pretty much on History Flight. And what these folks do is they go out to various World War II battlefields and try to recover the remains of those who are still missing. One of the women on Great Basin Canine Search and Rescue on our team has gone several times with History Flight to Normandy, and she's gone with her dog, and they have identified several burial sites where remains have been recovered. Back a couple of years ago, History Flight went to Tarawa and recovered the remains of 36 Marines who had been lost, their graves had been misidentified or mislocated. They were never recovered after the battle to be properly interred, and History Flight recovered them. So that's kind of what the genesis of the story in Ghost of Iwo Jima. I just took that idea and applied it to Iwo Jima. However, this is totally fictional. To the best of my knowledge, nothing like this with dogs has been attempted on Iwo Jima. There have been several recovery efforts made, but they were all done without dogs. Of course, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, but you have great experience in this, and you and Gunny are really involved in search and rescues, but also in live rescues as well, because in your book you also talk about Avalanche Rescue and that type of thing. And so the work you're doing is really fantastic, and it's all voluntary from what I understand. It's like when we write books, we don't get paid for this.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and the how that all came about is very, very similar to the way I talk about it in the book. Got this puppy that we decided we wanted to get a dog, and he turned out to be a very, very active little puppy who was driving us nuts. So one day I talked to a friend of mine on the ski patrol of Powder Mountain, which is about 6 miles up the road from where I'm sitting right now. He said, "Well, it sounds like you've got a dog who needs a job. Why don't you bring him up? We'll test him to see if he could be an avalanche dog." And so I did that, and turns out that that's pretty much what he was born to do. And we started out doing avalanche work, and then got into the general search and rescue, both live find and human remains.
And you talk about this in your book, and so as I read this, this opened up a whole new world to me, because I wasn't I guess maybe I knew somewhere in the back of my mind that something like this existed, but I did not know how you went about it and the importance of it. And I believe you talked about the story about finding a little girl out in that had wandered away from her camp or something like that.
Yeah, that particular story is fictional, but it's based upon many different things that Gunny and I and other teams have done, both on actual searches and in training. So a point, this is, Ghost of Iwo Jima is a novel. It's what I would refer to as historical or realistic fiction. So the historical fiction part is about the Battle of Iwo Jima. That's based upon actual units, actual locations, actual events that occurred during the battle, although the individuals that I talk about in the book are fictional. Mm. The realistic fiction comes from all of the stuff about the dogs. Pretty much everything that I describe the dogs doing in the book is based upon things that either Gunny and I have done or that I know other dog teams have done. So a lot of people have asked me, can dogs really do that? It seems so incredible that they can do some of the things they do. And the answer is yes. They can, all the things that I describe in the book, having the dogs do, search and rescue dogs can actually do.
You also taught, one of your characters is a fictionalized Marine from, I believe it was Iraq. And he was a canine handler and had a dog that I guess it was a German Shepherd that you talked about in the book. And they specialized in finding IEDs and things of that nature. So maybe you could tell our audience a little bit about that.
Well, and of course, you know, the armed forces in general have been making more and more use of dogs in the last 20 years or so, especially with the fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan and the whole IED problem. There's actually, I refer in the book to a study that was done at Penn State University where they were looking at the possibility of developing a sensor that would have the same capability of a dog to be able to sense, to smell explosives, explosive residue, or explosive components the way a dog can do. And the bottom line of that study, when they got finished studying all this, was the Department of Defense needed to buy more dogs.
Yeah,
because, because we simply don't have the technology right now to come anywhere close to duplicating what a dog can do with its nose, and that's pretty incredible. So what I do in the book is I have a former Marine and his dog who were both wounded in a battle in Afghanistan, who they become part of the team. And their job is to clear the area where the team is going to be searching for any unexploded ordnance. During the Battle of Iwo Jima, the United States alone dropped over 20,000 tons of explosives on this 8-square-mile island you talked about. That doesn't count all the explosives that the Japanese fired. And not all of that blew up when it was supposed to. There's still a lot of unexploded ordnance scattered around that island. So having a bomb detection or an explosive detection dog as part of the team, I thought kind of made sense.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when you mentioned all the explosives, that was naval gunfire, but also artillery rounds. And for those who have not studied Iwo Jima, the landing pretty much all took place on the one side of the island. I believe it was pretty much the southern part of the island. And the island is, like I said, I think 8.1 square miles is what I read. That to the left of the landing force was Mount Suribachi, which we know of, and we all know of the flag raising and everything, but that was really not the most heavily defended part of the island, and it was not anything that was of that strategic value, actually, or tactical value, but it was something that the Marines had to take out first, because they had the field of fire from up above. And so our Marines went up there, but that only took about 3 days. But the rest of the time was pretty much in from the beaches. There was lowlands leading up into mountainous areas, and so there had to be a lot of explosives, a lot of shells that had never exploded in that area that our guys were really susceptible to.
Yeah, and in addition to the naval gunfire and artillery, the Army Air Corps bombed Iwo Jima for almost 30 days prior to the invasion. So there were, 20,000 tons of explosives. That's more than the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot. And I'd like to follow up on what you said about the Suribachi and the rest of the island. The action in the book takes place in an area called the amphitheater, that the Marines called the amphitheater during the battle. part of a larger Japanese defensive position that the Marines call the meat grinder. And this is all historical fact. I ended up focusing on that part of the battle because of the units that participated there. The unit that I follow in the book is Baker Company, 1st Battalion, 25th Marines. I chose them because my dad had been a Marine in World War II, and he was with the 25th Marines for the invasion of the Marshall Islands, Roy Namar, in 1944. Our son, who is now a Marine Lieutenant Colonel, when he was a captain, was a platoon commander with Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 25th Marines. So the same unit that I talked about in the book, he was with Bravo 125 in Fallujah in 2006. So I kind of ended up, I picked the unit first, and then I did the research to find out where they had fought. And that's how I ended up focusing on the amphitheater and the meat grinder in the book.
Wow, that's really interesting. I had no idea about that, and that ties everything together. So your father and your son. So we're talking 3 generations of Marines.
Yeah, yeah.
Semper Fi.
I don't know if you can see the logo on my shirt here. This is the logo of the Marine Corps Embassy Security Guard Detachment in Kabul, Afghanistan. Our son is now the commanding officer of all of the Marine Corps Embassy Security Guards in the Middle East. So he's responsible for 22 embassies and consulates in the Middle East. He's been doing that for almost 2 years now. So he gave me this shirt for a Christmas present.
Ah, fantastic. So for those of you who are watching who don't know this, the Marines are responsible for the guarding and securing all of our embassies around the world. And that's really prestige duty for Marines, we see Marines at the embassies and they're in their dress blues and everything, but they also are there prepared for combat.
Right. And their primary responsibility is the security of classified information. So, they're the ones who try to keep the bad guys out when they're coming in and, trying to get all our secrets.
Wow. Yeah. So, getting back to Iwo Jima and the battle there, that the unit that you described lost so many men, and that was pretty typical, I think, of that battle where, squads normally had 3 4-man fire teams and a squad leader. 13 men were in this case were reduced down to like 5, and platoons were reduced down from usually a typical platoon, as I recall, was somewhere around 48 or 49 men.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of lieutenants and platoon sergeants, platoon commanders and platoon sergeants that didn't make it. And so our Marines, guys that were corporals and so forth, they took over, and they were responsible for making sure that we won that battle.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. All of the training that you do, all of the equipment that you have, everything else, isn't going to make any difference if you don't have guys who are going to step up and put their life on the line and do what they need to do. So in the book, as you said, the squad that I follow in the book was attrited down to only 5 individuals. And that's actually after they'd already gotten 4 replacements. So they actually lost 12 people during the battle out of an original 13, which is pretty significant. But as you say, not untypical. That happened a lot. And at the end of the fight, the 5 Marines that I follow, that I talk about in the book, The squad leader was a private first class,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't that unusual. Wasn't that unusual in Vietnam either.
I know. So tell us, and you also now are going to are writing another book to follow. Is it a follow-up of this, or is it a similar book?
It's a sequel, yeah. It has the same, pretty much the same cast of characters. So
Mm-hmm.
so Gunny and his handler Sam are back, along with Steve and Luke, the explosive ordnance team. And this one is called Ghost of the Buffalo Wheel. And the Buffalo Wheel, so this is a totally different kind of story. It's not strictly about the Marines. It's more about search and rescue. It's the Buffalo Wheel is an ancient stone circle up in the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming, about 100 miles that way from where I'm sitting. There's a problem at this circle, and one of the medicine men from the Arapaho Indian tribe up in the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming has come to the search and rescue team asking for their help in resolving a problem that the tribes are having up at the Buffalo Wheel. And Buffalo Wheel is a stone circle, kind of like Stonehenge, that ancient Americans built as an astronomical calendar, just like Stonehenge.
So in this book, we'll have an opportunity to learn some history and some geography of a part of our country that probably very few of us know. I've worked in Wyoming at a uranium mine, so
wow.
And I traveled around the state a little bit just to get to know it. But I'm really looking forward to this. Now you really piqued my interest on this one.
Yeah, and this is something that once again I've had to do a lot of research on, and that's been fun to do. I've tried to learn a lot about the Arapaho and Shoshone tribes who were on the Wind River Reservation. And included a lot of their culture and religious beliefs in the book, it's been a lot of fun learning about that for me, and hopefully it'll be fun for people to read.
I'm sure it will. Well, anyway, has Gunny come inside yet? And
let me go yell for my wife and see if she can go get him for us.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause our recording. Hey,
I don't think I'm going to be able to get both of us on there. But there's Gunny.
There we go. Here's the star of the show. Hey, Gunny. and what a name for a dog that's owned by a Marine, a Gunny, because Gunnies are, we all, if anybody's watching this that's not an officer, you got to believe us officers, we loved our Gunny sergeants because they were the guys that made everything happen. They were the backbone of it all. So, but every Marine from 4-star commandant down to PFC or private are all equally important and all equally responsible for everything that happens in the Marine Corps. It's just that some of us play different roles than others, and that's really the difference. And the dogs play an important role too, because the dogs are also, they're Marines, aren't they?
That's right. And that's one of the things that I talk about in the book in a couple of places, that as far as most Marines are concerned, their dogs are just other Marines, and they're treated the same way. Actually, they're treated a lot better most of the time.
and deservedly so. They should be treated better because they're truly man's best friend, and I guess we might say they're Marine's best friend too. So
yeah, for sure,
it's really great. This is the first time I've had one of our canine friends on the show, and Gunny, I'm just really thrilled to have you on the show. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Well, you can see how thrilled Gunny is.
I think he's thinking about what his next job is going to be. I think he's a worker, isn't he?
Well, he is. Now, of course, he's 11 years old now, so you can see the white around his face.
Yeah.
So I interrupted his mid-morning nap to bring him up here. That's why he's being so quiet.
Well, Gunny, I apologize because there's nothing us old guys like better than our naps. Okay, thanks so much. So anyway, I'm gonna. Okay, thanks to Gunny for appearing on the show. I mean, this is a highlight for me. And what I'd like now is Joe to tell us where we can all find his book, and I also want to tell you, as an author, and I know Joe will agree with me, we really love to have people read our books. That's why we write them. And we love for people to order our books so we can sign them. We really like signing books, and then we also like to get reviews. Reviews are
important. That's right. Yep. And that's the way that you get the word out. I mean, most of my marketing is word of mouth, when I tell someone, oh, gee, you ought to go to Amazon and buy my book, and if they go there and 3 people have reviewed it, they're going to think, well, gee, that's probably not much. But if 100 people have reviewed it, then maybe they'll start to think that it's something they want to read.
Yeah. Now, can someone order a book from you so you can sign it? Do you have books on hand?
I don't, but I can make arrangements. I probably the best thing to do. I think I sent you my the information on my webpage.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
And ghostofiwojima.com, and I've got a contact page on there. So if someone is interested in having me sign a book or do something like that, you can send me an email on that contact page, and we'll figure out a way to make it work.
Okay, great.
Where they are and all that other stuff. And actually, when I sign the books, there are 2 signatures on there. There's my signature and there's Gunny's paw print.
Ah, okay. That's something I think we all want to get. So now, as far as learning about you and more about you, you're also on Facebook, so you have a social media presence as well.
Yeah, probably not as much as I should have. It's not something I'm really good at, and still doing some work on the web page, but it's up and running. It's functional, so I'm out on Facebook. Joe Jennings. I don't have a separate Facebook account for the book itself, but I'm out there, and if somebody wants to contact me, I'd be happy to talk with them or talk about books, talk about dogs, talk about Marines. Always happy to do any of that sort of thing.
Okay, so I guess we can end on that note, as those are the things that we really like to talk about: Marines, dogs, books, etc. So thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate you having us on the show, and it's really been a pleasure, and I know our viewers will really enjoy this.
To talk with me, I'd be more than happy to do that, and we'll see where we go from here.
Okay, Semper Fi, my brother. Okay, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed meeting Major Joe Jennings, the United States Marine Corps, retired, and also Gunny. And it was quite a treat for me, and I just really enjoyed this. This was such a wonderful show for me. And I want to encourage you all to get Joe's book, the Ghost of Iwo Jima, and all the information is there with the article that goes along with this show. And of course, I want you to get my book too. So, hey, support your Marines, and buy their books and write reviews for them and everything like that. So in parting, as I always say, God bless you all for watching. God bless our vets. God bless our active duty personnel. God bless Joe's son who's over in Afghanistan. And God bless our Corps. And God save our America, because we need you now more than ever before. So long, boys and girls. And remember, do something kind for a vet and thank them for their service. God bless.